Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the San Francisco Public Library and to today's special edition of our Poem Jam poetry reading. I'm John Smalley, a librarian here in the Humanities Department. And before we get started, I want to take a moment to acknowledge our community and to tell you about a couple upcoming programs. On behalf of the Public Library, we wish to welcome you to the unceded ancestral homeland of the Ramaytush Ohlone, who are the original inhabitants of the San Francisco Peninsula. As the indigenous stewards of this land, and in accordance with their traditions, the Ramaytush have never ceded, lost, nor forgotten their responsibilities as caretakers of this place. As guests, we who reside in their traditional territory recognize that we benefit from living and working on their homeland. We wish to pay our respects by acknowledging the ancestors, relatives, and elders of the Ramaytush community and by affirming their sovereign rights as First Peoples. If anyone is here for the first time, our Poem Jam poetry reading series, facilitated by San Francisco Poet Laureate emerita Kim Shuck, takes place ordinarily on the second Thursday of each month, 6 p.m. in this very room. So we hope that you will come back again next month, December 11th, to come to December's Poem Jam, Endangered, Extirpated, Extinct is what it's called, and that will feature paired poems and artworks by Kim about 12 species native to the Pacific Coast and U.S. territories. So that should be great. We'll mention one other program later this month on November 30th, across the way in the Correct Auditorium, 1 p.m. There will be a new documentary called Thabwe, Creative Resistance in Myanmar, and that's about artists and activists coming up with creative ways to make their voices heard in a deadly conflict zone. It's only an hour long. It's a brand new documentary. There'll be a reception afterwards with samosas and Burmese tea, so I hope you can come to that. If you want to learn more about our programs, there are flyers and library newsletters on the table to your right, as well as limited edition Poem Jam pins and coffee and cookies. So help yourself to all of that. Are there what? There's 3 left. So you have to act fast if you want one. And what else should I say? That's about it. You can also check our online events calendar on our website, sfpl.org, to learn about our events, limited to poetry. So that's all I have to say for announcements. Please now welcome our host of the Long Run Poem Jam series, Kim Shuck. Give her a warm welcome.
Hey folks, thanks for coming out on what might end up being quite a rainy Sunday afternoon. This afternoon, I guess, Poem Jam features the work of Janice Gould and people who I thought would support the work of Janice Gould. I've been part of an editorial team that's been working on her final work. She was quite ill, and she wrote a series of linked prose poems that about her life. Janice was a Koyankawi, am I getting that right? Oh, good. Koyankawi poet who was raised in Berkeley and was an academic and a lesbian, and the work, she kind of had to keep a bit of a low profile for a lot of her life. And that changes the way you write. And I've been really in the book pretty intensely. And one of the things I realized was that I was not the only person who is not as familiar with her work as I should have been as a Native woman writing in this day and age. So it's with enormous pleasure that I welcome you to this particular poem jam, and it is an extra one for the reasons that I've said, that I think it's really important. And also, I'm going to encourage people to support writers while they're alive, because I do a lot of sort of after-the-fact readings, but I also try to do a few before people pass, and I think it's really important that we support people during the moment as well. So I'm going to call up Lauren, who I thought would really, I wasn't sure if you'd ever heard of her work before I brought her up, and I thought she'd really dig it. So Lauren is an awesome poet, writes and does cool things and witchy stuff also, and welcome her up to the microphone.
Hello, everyone. Can you all hear me okay? It's always tricky with me and microphones. There's been many instances where they just fall right off the stand, so I have to be very careful. It's always an honor to get to honor the work of queer elders, especially as a queer person. And the ways in which our history just sort of evaporates is just something that I'm always very present with, especially right now. And so I really want to start with one of Janice's poems that I've really been thinking about kind of the last several weeks. And it's called What Happened to My Anger. What happened to my anger? It was rounded up and removed to a camp, or it went into self-exile, or perhaps it painted itself white. Now it goes into the world with a happy face. What happened to my anger? It turned into a worm, coiled in my belly. It formed into a mass of cold cells attached to my spleen. It became this wound in my hand. What happened to my anger? It became a eunuch and laid itself down on the divan before the flickering TV, drowning its sorrow, its vacuity. It went to the kitchen in search of food, prepared many meals. It cleaned the toilet, the cat box, the carpet. My anger has not worn itself out. It has not become obedient, but dumb. She's great. And in kind of that vein, I'm going to read one of mine, and this is called Ask About the Women in Your Family. My grandmother couldn't cook, so we wrote her out of the stories. Every holiday, every birthday, every day she spent preparing, we forgot her name. When we could remember it, it rolled foreign on our tongues and lips like boats too small for choppy swells. The family rings around the table. Chair legs grinding on linoleum, photo albums open, blooming like the flowers in her garden that we never notice, that spring up every year, untended, struggling through the weeds. We recognize our smiles, our noses, the shape of our eyes. We flip through the photos, but no one sees the person behind the camera. No one mentions her nose, the shape of her eyes, the one who organized and labeled the albums. Script as tight and drawn as a mouth in concentration as you stir a quickly burning sauce. Her death is the equator, declaring the loosely navigational space where the family stores our myths, the stars that predict who we are, books of genealogy, stories of war generals, sailing, settlement, we shout over her voice. She fades into the couch cover, a transparent plastic thing protecting the fabric underneath. We never forgive her for dying. We never forgive her for not being able to make a meatloaf or a pie or a casserole. Thank you. I wrote a poem about veganism once, and I don't hear very many poems about veganism, so I'm going to read it now. And it's called Vegan in a Food Desert. Most of the vegan food you can have in my hometown is the ice and the cola, clinking against your teeth. The ketchup is a safe bet. That's probably vegan. You don't know what's in the bun because once you know, you can't unknow, and then you have to do something about it. And that something you're doing is going without. It sounds so easy to abstain as you try to figure out if there's anything in this restaurant that you can eat. Potatoes? Butter. What about the French fries? Milk. How about the rolls? Egg wash. You become familiar with the most heinous sounding words: whey powder, casein, hydrogenated milk solids. You learn that cruelty-free isn't an official designation. There is no one checking the labs or farms to ask the chickens and bunnies if they are happy or loved. But you're here in a Denny's for visitation with your dad. He took you here because it's the only diner for 12 miles and your sister wants pancakes. Your stomach rages and you fill it with black coffee to show you're a grown-up. Your legs sticking to the vinyl-covered booth seats. The waiter calls you kiddo. You hate that. When you're home in bed, you pull on your hoodie and wait to put on your shoes until you're quietly out the door, walking in the dark towards the lit sign, the only one around until the gas station, Live Moss. Your best friend works the night shift, and you sit in a booth eating one of several vegan options she's built just for you, your legs sticking to the vinyl of the booth. And when she eats with you on her break, it feels like family dinner. I'm going to read another one of Janice's, actually, and this one's called Evening News, another one I've been sitting with a lot. She's so poignant. There's so much that unfortunately still applies about her work. Each evening the news, unbearable and desperate, is delivered by a man with a dispassionate face. The ads spell relief, promoting laxatives, pain pills, automobiles, and when you turn off the set, there is darkness and unnatural silence. Beyond the windows and doors, the city builds itself, cathedrals, museums, convenience stores. By midnight, there is an audible crescendo. Then the traffic subsides, sirens die out. This is when germination takes place, the secret unfolding of things. Those who scavenge come out, those who commit atrocities, and ghosts who inhabit the carcasses of dogs set up a howl. In a country bereft of love, citizens are fearful and suspicious. They wish to know the truth, not always what is written. Out among the galaxies is wild, crazy singing, the hard, fiery mystery of words. So, as a member of the disaster queer contingency, I bravely decided to get into a relationship and then kind of tried to ruin our lives a little bit. And then I wrote a book about it and, and about David Bowie and the desert and love and how hard it is. And dysphoria. So I'm going to read a little bit from that, and this is called Attack of the T-Rex. I hate having a body. I press on my eyes until patterns bloom like an acid trip, browns against blacks that lighten into a headache. When I hurt, I feel less human. The highway is guarded by dinosaurs, stone statues to entertain children, enough to toss $1 in a ticket machine, to run across pavement and the frozen likeness of ancient raptors, cartooned for easy recognition. Mark it off the sheet of paper, take your photos, watch the shadows grow and shrink. I throw my arms up and they creak with hangover. My sweat is mostly gin, but I can make my shadow reach out its tyrannous arms, its tyrant king teeth. Shadow as black as a star, rigid as the teeth of the fur. Feathers as preened as ornate lapels. My footsteps clack like medals of honor, and you let my Saturn snatch and catch like a firefly in a jar. You list all the dinosaurs you can name, herbivores. You like all the ones that are gentle, and my mouth tastes like meat and cigarettes. I press on my eyes. This one's called Mojave. The desert and the sky have the same effect. You can't judge the distance. You can reach out and touch everything. You reach out to collect every star, and I fill your pockets with change and say, stars don't exchange like they used to. And you tell me that you can tell the difference between mountains and hills with one special trick. If you can see the top, it's not a mountain. And even if I didn't have a spaceship to catch or a man waiting on me in the wild of the mesa, I would consider it worth it to ride off in the lush and crowded desert with you. Do I have a time for another one, Kim? Yeah. Okay. All right, last one. This one is called Suntanned Windblown. To remove the skin of a rabbit, you cut a hole in the back and tear, working your fingers under the fur and out like you're ripping open a package of taffies at the shore, the salty sea air making your hair curl. Be quick. Quick is the thing. The hard part is always the head. To remove the skin of a deer, you have to go slowly. Technique is important. Keep your eye on the knife, not on the iron hooks hanging from the ceiling. Don't let the clink of chains fill your head. Start at the back leg. Follow the tendons. Learn the release of skin separating from muscle, from fat. Split it like the back of the leg is coated in the most erotic of stockings. A bear is a bit like a human. You start at the wrist and the curl of the paw, outstretched handshake. Split the fur like parting a sea, seam on seam on seam. Meet at the throat, jaw, snout, highways of the body. The meat will glisten too, pink and white, soft, angelic like Easter lilies. You'll be surprised at how the meat is stored. The legs mostly bone, cut knuckles, snap tibia. The symmetry will rock you to sleep. When you cut off your own skin, you won't be able to just tear open and out, snap a leg bone after gliding through tendons, careful to avoid the rump meat. It doesn't begin with the knife. It begins in the car. Day 4, 2 more than the map said because you're lost, so incredibly lost. And your car is a classic Chevelle not built for long trips, and the crook of the neck of the girl you love is louder than the radio. You pull and tug at your exterior in the hotel rooms at the sites where she runs out and says, "Take my picture." And you pretend that the camera is the eye you see her through. The concave glass lens is the thing that sees her the most. Stark, arms out, shadow among cacti. She can feel everything, her sides pushed in from the world, and you stand with your camera and your skin worked off with a knife, limp in your hands, limp in the heat, praying she'll eat you or wear you. Thank you all. Thank you for having me, Kim.
So there are the sorts of poets who do poetic triage, and I think I'm one of those, where an event will come up or a problem will make you aware of it, and then there you are writing to that. And it's when you write those poems, you do hope that they go stale and that you don't have to keep reading them forever. But after reading more and more of Janice's work, I realized that after I die, there will be people reading my poems and go, "That was so prescient," not realizing that those problems continue and happen all the time. Lauren, have you ever skinned a rabbit?
I have skinned a squirrel.
Uh-huh.
I've done a mouse, and I have washed.
Yeah. I've done a lot of that, actually, a lot of skinning. And I've always find it amusing, and you may have this for free. Where I learned how to do it, they call it fisting a rabbit. And no one gets it. Anyway, just me. Really? That's not funny at all. Okay. Anyway, our next reader is also Koyankawi, just like the person we're honoring today, and a good friend. And what else should I say about Linda? Linda Knoll was the Poet Laureate of Ukiah, California. I'm still waiting for her full-length collection, which I'm assured is on its way. And no pressure. We read together a lot, and I really need to start being more careful about inviting you down here when it's not November. Please welcome Linda Knoll to the microphone.
Thanks, Kim. I'm really glad to be here. I'm always glad to come down to the library doings and Kim's stuff, but I'm particularly glad today to honor Janice because, like Kim said, I think that she deserves more recognition that she has gotten thus far. We are Koyunkawi people. Our people come from the Northern Sierra, Plumas County, Butte, Yuba counties up there. And what I find so interesting about Janice's work is she writes about places that I know, places that I come from, where she comes from. And a lot of them are places that have not survived since the gold rush and all that. And as Kim said about being familiar with her work, there is a poem that I was unable to locate for this reading, and I can't even recall the title, but I do recall when I first read it, and the ending lines were something to the effect of, "Do not forget we are here because there are people at Feather Falls who are burning sage at this moment." And when I read that, I nearly wept because Feather Falls is where my father was born in 1921. And again, it was a logging town, leftover gold miners, but it became a logging town. And so there were many natives born there. And there's nothing there now. So I wanted to talk just a little bit about her background of being from up there, up the Feather River Canyon as we refer to it, but then growing up in Berkeley, but having that connection back to those places. And also I wanted to let everyone know that sometimes when you read her work, she will say she is Koyunkawi, which is loosely interpreted as people of the meadow, because you go up there in those mountains and there's thick timber, and then you'll come to this round, beautiful meadow that is just covered with beautiful flowers. I was up there not too long ago. I was up there at Belden. That's where my grandfather was born, my mother's father. There is a lodge there now, and there are young people who have festivals there. I don't know if they're music festivals or what. And there's just a one-lane bridge across the Feather River. And the time before when I went up there was a woman there who stopped you and asked you what your business was there and da-da-da, because they were getting ready for this festival. So I said, forget it. But that is my homeland, no matter what goes on there. Janice talks about, excuse me, Yellow Creek. And Yellow Creek runs right into the Feather River right there at Belden. It's kind of a rest stop. There are restrooms there, but there's also a huge power plant that runs off the river. So there's always this buzz there. So if you go there and get a buzz, it's really not a pleasant one. But I wanted to read about that place and then where she grew up. So I picked some pieces that I thought represent that. And this is Feather River Sonnets. Oh, I'm sorry. But what I was going to say, in our language, you might see her name as Koyunkawi Maidu. And because in our language, in the Koyunkawi language, Maidu means native person, just means another native person. If my mother saw someone standing on the corner, she might say, oh, there's a Maidu, meaning, oh, it means another native person. And there is also a Maidu Museum in Roseville, California. And the reason I bring that up is, of course, it talks about our history and everything. It has interesting exhibits, but also because the highly regarded of the Maidu people are depicted there in stand-up cardboard, you know, like The Rock. And there's one of Janice there. So I think that represents of how highly she's regarded. This is called Feather River Sonnets. 1. They lease a cabin where the river bends, the canyons wider here, but steep, just north, where summer clouds have billowed in. He tends a big garden on the floodplain, and 4th of July we visit them. Mom's sister Lil and her husband Ivan, a 3-pack smoker, curmudgeon, a sour trickster with a stubby thumb from his lumberjack days. Lil sews, cooks, presses flowers, crochets Afghans, knits socks, cans fruit, and cleans. She carps about the sifting summer heat and the stifling summer heat and says she lives too far away. But if I harp, he'll take me to Smorgies, she winks and nods. He soon comes in with carrots from their yard. 2. Sometimes a rattler slips into the grass and creeps along the raised head and flickering tongue. Ivan, grab the dog and make it fast, Lil shouts. Our heavy uncle runs, ticking off the yards in seconds to scoop the pup, a chihuahua named Itty Bit, who snaps and growls because my uncle will not let up teasing him, but he adores that dog, wraps him in the crook of his arm, carries him everywhere. Ivan seizes a hoe to behead the snake, and if we tarry outside a moment, he will curse and throw a rock to hurt us away. Ruffian of sorts. His words are gruff, his old face grim. 3. At the cabin, relative peace prevails. We hardly fight. No one yells, storms, or cries, or feels called upon to stretch the truth, lie, or dissemble grades. Who cares? No one fails, at least not much. We can dress like boys. No one disapproves. This willful ignorance is nice. We hike, fish, swim, run. Kick the can's our favorite game. We watch the river flow, pick gold poppies on the road, listen to the wind that blows each afternoon. Our mom seems merry away from home and dad, from worries about money, about him, who does what dads do without family near, funny things, perverse, all a little queer. 4. Our mom and aunt were born just down the road when muleback was the customary mode of transport. Goods came by train, and a stagecoach ran from Innskeep through red dust and sage and dry manzanita. Things smelled of sweat, leather, wool, coal, and smoke. People would get letters written in ink by pens with brass nibs. Dearest mother, just a line to ask how you are doing. How are Cindy, and Jock Leander? Has Dad struck gold? Did the flock of ducks survive? Did the old crow give up the ghost? 50 years later, we feel ruptured from this past almost. Our mom and aunt in tandem laugh. Bring back those times. You can't. 5. Of course the river's dammed up now, says Mom, and Jim Lee's pergola is gone. He tapped the soda springs for tourists and mapped a place for picnic lunches near our home. Folks came by train and walked along the trail. There was no highway there. Jim kept a stone beneath his arm. The boy said, if he throws that rock at your feet, you will die. Frail and consumptive. We knew he had power, practiced Indian cures. Strange things went on. The spirit world was present. Now they're gone. Remember the cemetery, the flowers we picked when Mama died, she asked. Aunt Lil singing to that wild river, neither smile. 6. The kids would never tell me what went on in Indian school. I know that it burned out is all. They came home scarred, hair full of lice. Dad cut it short, and they used turpentine to kill the bugs. It stung their scalp. They cried, the girls did. If you get that in your eyes, you'll go blind, they said. Mom waits a spell, then resumes. They built another grade school in Belden. The kids went there. They learned to read, write, do math. They never felt spurned by their classmates, and they liked their teacher. I was young, but I'd have walked 10 acres to go to school as little as I was, she cries, fiery determination in her eyes. 7. We hike up Yellow Creek to Grandpa's claim, an old abandoned mine cabin with worn planks, dynamite beneath the iron frame of the bed. No gold now, only the torn face of the cliff, wind in cedar and pine, and the cold creek, numbingly cold and clear, breaking over rocks, splashing us with fine spray. Late in the afternoon, a mule deer comes down to drink from the glistening pool by the boulders. Skinny water snakes glide past our legs, all brown speed and sleekness, fooling us. It's not a twig. Day's heat subsides, much like Grandpa's dream of fat, easy wealth. He died poor, a drunk in consumptive health. 8. Aunt Lil will not admit that he was cruel when he drank. Our father would beat his sons till the blood ran down their backs. The only one he never hit was me. I was too small. Mom sighs. We're seated at the river's edge on a sandy bar in warm, bright sunshine. I glance at her face. The dark furrowed line between her brows has deepened, a hard ledge of memory. The river splashes by. A tanager lights in the wind-whipped willows. It flits yellow feathers. We dipped our hands in water, prayed. We ever try to appease what burns, what lacerates, the loss of trust, ferocious tears, old hates. 9. The boys all scattered when our mama died. The girls found work in the city, housemaids. Our dad shacked up with Annie Lee and stayed drunk. Sister Bertha never liked the lights and came back home to the mountains. She passed away young. Mom's tales fill my tender heart. West of us, Mount Ben Lomond stands, part white, puffy thunderheads that mount up fast at canyon's rim. I know we Koyankawi have lived here a long time, hunted and fished, told stories, had ceremonies, had wished to keep old ways and family ties, no doubt. But everything we loved, says Mom, seems gone. Earth and homestead, our tongues, our place, our songs. 10. Mom wakes us early. It's Monday, full moon in the canyon, home to Berkeley, the bay, ocean fog. We'll have eggs, toast. Pretty soon we'll be on the road, silent and dismayed at having to leave this place. I hate goodbyes, but the canyon shimmers in light from the moon, and now the sad, longing ache begins to wane. Granite looks slick at night beneath the lunar glow. At 8, we're home, having sped down the 2-lane Delta Road. I know the river's back there, fine, red loam, serpentine and mica rocks, the sunny load of water, smell of sawmills, yellow pine, things I claim, though they never can be mine. I know that was a long one, but I do think that it talked about her life and where she came from. So I have one more and then I'll finish with a short one of mine. And I thought that this, she talked about coming home to Berkeley where she grew up, though she knew the history of where she was from on her mother's side of Koyankawi. So this is called Indian Mascot, 1959. Now began the festival and rivalry of late fall. The weird debauch of daring debacle of frat boy parties as students parade foggy streets in mock processions, bearing ashoulders scrawny effigies of dead, defeated Indians cut from trees where in the twilight they had earlier been hung. Just dummies, laughs our dad. Red Indians hung or burned, it's only in jest. Every fall brings the big game against Stanford, where young scholars let off steam before the debacle they may face of failed exams. You're dead wrong, he says to Mom. They don't mock real live Indians. Around UC campus, mock lynchings go on. Beneath porches, we see hung the scarecrow natives with fake long braids, dead from the merrymaking. On Bancroft Way, one has fallen indecorously to a lawn, a symbol of the debacle that happened 3 generations ago in California hills, where Native people were strung up, a way of having fun. Where did they go, those Indian ghosts? Their kids perform mock war dances, whooping, reenacting scenes of debacle white folks let loose, chides Mom. Meanwhile, we hang portraits of presidents on school walls and never let fall the old red, white, and blue. My dear brother is dead because he fought in a white man's war. How many dead Indians do they need to feel okay? This whole thing wears on my soul. In the dark car, we go silent, and the fall night gets chillier. In yards, blazing bonfires mark the stars that glow palely somewhere above. A thin moon hangs over the Thule fog. I'd never heard the word debacle before and wonder what it means. What's a debacle, Mom? I ask. Oh, honey, it's a terrible and deadly collapse, complete ruin. I've noticed how the hung Indians have their heads slumped forward. They wear old clothes, headbands with feathers, face paint, moccasins instead of boots. Little do we know, this fall, living Indians have feather falls, have tobacco to mark that. Indeed, we're still here, lungs full of indigenous air. I just want to finish and read this for her in her spirit that is with us today. And as you know, she and we are from the mountains. But this poem could be a valley song, or it could be a river song, a coastal song. But because we're from the mountains, for us it's a mountain song. Mountain song. Blessed mountain, you are my home. Sacred homeland, you are my heart. Blessed heart, you are my truth. Sacred truth, you are the way. Blessed way, you are a circle. Sacred circle, you are a basket. Blessed basket, you weave my life. Sacred life, you are a gift. Thank you. Thank you.
So the library has a few of Janice's books, and I thought I'd let you see them. This was a book put together by her and Dean Rader. It's called Speak to Me Words. I have a copy of this. It's very good. There's this A Generous Spirit, which is about Beth Brandt. Also very good. And one of her poetry books called Beneath My Heart. This one apparently lives in the LGBTQIA Center. I swear every time I look, there's a new letter. What? Yes. Another letter, and I can't figure out how to pronounce it. I'm going to read one called My Crush on the Yakima Woman. It was raining along the Columbia River that November. I lived on the farm. One morning at 6 a.m., a Yakima woman drove up the gravel road to my place. She'd come to pick me up. She was sure pretty, that woman, with her wide face, obsidian eyes, and hair the color of blackbird wings. She had slim, long legs, and every guy at the cannery where we worked was sick for her. But it was me she took home to meet her kids. Her husband was out hunting that weekend. I saw him only once when he came home, changed clothes, and went off with a beer in his hand. She waved goodbye, not bothering to get up. I strummed my guitar. She listened and smoked, and then she said, "Sing some more." So I threw back my head and sang "Your Cheatin' Heart" in a way Patsy Cline would have understood. And the Yakima woman thought about it, smiled, and said, "That was real good." So I played and drank and sang and cried, and finally she asked, "Do you want to go to bed?" She did not mean with her. I slept on the sofa. She slept in her thin chemise. The kids slept scattered all over the floor. About 4 a.m, I got up and looked at the sky. It angered me to see it cold and full of stars above the black fir forest. Yeah, I love her work. Her widow gave me her broken beads, her broken beadwork. I have a bag sitting on my desk of her broken beadwork. It's a lot. It's funny what people give you to carry, you know? And I keep thinking, if I fix them, I'll be part owner with her of this. And I wasn't ready for it, so I haven't done it yet. Anyway, it makes me wonder, too, if Mimi knew what she was doing, because she's not Native. But she did live with Janice for long enough to kind of have an idea, so I think she might have known. Children who never departed. In Alaska, in the long summer twilight, it may be when the winds in the aspen, the quaking leaves awaken 2 Indian children buried above the Salcha River. They fly straight up from the grave, and their souls wrap around each other like a whirlwind. Their grief falls on the white stars of dogwood, on spruce and willow that bank the calm river. Sometime you may see them when, picking high-bush cranberries, you sweat to the crest of a bluff. They stand quietly at the edge of the glade, or lie clasping one another amid moss and matted roots in the damp, exploded earth. I think I'm going to read Black Bear and then close this out. I think we've all had a really solid taste of her work. I recommend that you all read it yourselves. It's different when it happens inside your head. Black Bear. One day I am a black bear, none too friendly. I sniff and snort down the halls of academe, looking for the woman who told me no. There's scat in the stairwell. Her desk is blazed with my scratches. I stalk her like a lover. At night I circle and circle her house, breathing at her windows, pawing her doors. Stars dot my fur. My eyes glow with pinpoints of fire. Thank you for being here to celebrate poetry. Thank you, Lauren and Linda. Another round of applause for the future. Thank you, John, for being my best partner in putting these things together. And thank you, Mike, who is not present at this time, but who's been the one recording this nonetheless, for consistently making sure that these words go down to other generations. Give yourselves a round of applause for being clever enough to have come to this event.